Hello, it's Kristen and welcome back to my channel. Today we're making gingerbread scones. In a measuring cup, mix the cream and the egg. Next, add the molasses and mix until completely combined. It should look like a sort of weird kind of orangey smoothie. You want to keep this refrigerated until you're ready to use it. In a large bowl, add the flour, baking powder and salt, spices, and dark brown sugar. All of the ingredients will be listed in the description box below. Using your fingers, or you can use a whisk, mix everything together and make sure there aren't any hard lumps of brown sugar. When it's all combined, add the cold butter. Using your thumbs and pointer fingers, smush the butter into the flour. It shouldn't feel greasy at all. If it starts to feel greasy, just pop the whole bowl into the refrigerator for 15 minutes or until the butter is cold again. This is a bit tiring and it does take a little bit of grip strength, but hey, you'll have like awesome looking forearms by the time you're done with this. When the butter is properly incorporated into the flour, there shouldn't be any large lumps. There can be small flakes or pea-sized pieces, as people usually say, but there shouldn't be any like large lumps in it, like those cubes that you started with. They shouldn't be there anymore. And the flour should feel less powdery. Next, make a little well in the center of the flour and pour in the cream mixture, leaving about a half a tablespoon of liquid for later. So at this point, it's going to look like the flour isn't going to incorporate completely with the liquid, but don't panic. Just keep using slicing motions until the dough absorbs the liquid. The more you sort of rub the dough together, the more gluten forms and it'll yield tougher scones. When most of the liquid is incorporated and there isn't much powder on the bottom, you can use your hands with the help of a rubber scraper or a dough scraper and press the dough together as best you can. You'll find that there will be some powdery parts, but there will also be some really sticky parts, which is why you transfer it to a clean surface and then fold the dough over itself. When working with the dough at this stage, it shouldn't really resist. If you push it out, the dough shouldn't pull back or shrink in any way. It should just kind of be really malleable, sort of like a Play-Doh feeling. It shouldn't feel like a bread dough where it's stretching and then coming back kind of like a rubber band. So you want to press it out in sort of like an oval rectangle kind of shape and then fold it in thirds, or you can fold it in half, whichever you prefer. Then, using patting motions, shape the dough into a rectangle. Mine was about 1.5 inches tall, which is usually how tall I like to make my scones, because when they bake really tall that way. You can make it flatter if you want to yield more scones that are kind of cute and cookie sized. At this point, you can cut it into squares, or you can make small triangle scones. Then move the scones to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and brush the tops with the cream mixture from earlier. If you find that you don't have enough cream mixture, just add a little bit more milk or cream until you get enough to spread over the tops. Then bake the scones at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 minutes. And while they're baking, you can make the glaze, which is just powdered sugar and lemon juice. Whenever I'm working with powdered sugar, and in this case I'm making a glaze, I usually like to let the glaze sit for a little while before I taste it or before I use it on my baked goods. I find that powdered sugar or raw powdered sugar has sort of this bitter flavor or this bitter aftertaste that I don't really enjoy, but I find that if I let the mixture kind of sit for a little while and absorb all the liquid, it kind of takes the flavor of whatever liquid it's absorbed. So in this case, it tastes a lot better. It tastes a lot more lemony after you leave it for about 5 minutes, and it also gets to sort of a thicker consistency. So I do recommend making this while the scones are baking so that you can set it a little bit before you use it. To see if the scones are done, I usually do the poke test. So for dry scones, it's pretty easy. Dry scones meaning they don't have any fresh fruit in them, and it's mostly just flour and spices. So when you poke the tops, they should spring back just a little bit. If the scones spring back slightly, they're good to go. If they squish down and don't spring back, then they're not cooked enough. So you want to put them back in the oven for about 3 to 5 minutes until they get slightly springy. If they don't spring back up at all and they're really hard, then you probably overcooked your scones, and there's not much you can do about that other than enjoying them straight out of the oven. Let the scones cool before glazing, and that's it. This is my gingerbread scones recipe. It's a great holiday recipe if you're kind of tired of that same old Christmas cookie spread. It's kind of a nice game changer. It's great with tea, it's great on cold days, and it's just kind of that warm, nice and spicy flavor that sort of just reminds me of the holidays. So I really enjoy these. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.